And welcome back. It's Career Coaching After Hours with John Davidson. I can hardly believe it. It's Season 1, Episode 6 already. So thank you very much for joining me on episode number 6 as we hit June here very soon. All right, this time around I want to talk about non-competes, as in NoMo Noncompetes. So just last month here in April, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, prohibited non-compete agreements. And I've been talking to clients about this quite a bit. It's been in the news in several different outlets, Fortune, Washington Post, etc. Could change a lot of things in the career search world or the employment law world. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Just wrote an article on LinkedIn, so I'll expand on that. I'll have the links to my sources and that LinkedIn article below in the YouTube notes. So I'll ask some questions. Does this change anything for the modern American worker or for most people in most industries? Does it change everything? What's the real dealio here? And as I say, in all of my episodes, what is this series? It's audience agnostic. So if you are one of my clients, thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the show, great. Please let me know your thoughts. Likes and subscribes or comments are actually very much appreciated. So this is more of a meditation, as I note there, where every episode I've already written an article or a post on the topic, and this gives me an opportunity to chat a little bit more about it, or even what may have inspired me to write it. And so this is a great example where the topic has been front and center in the news, and I've helped quite a few folks navigate non-competes, over the years. So really interesting topic. But again, like I say, I am not likely your career coach, so consider this generalized advice, but not advice that's maybe specific to you. And as always, it's to the best of my knowledge. Check your sources. Feel free to review my credentials if you like. I may just know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And so here's the header that I built for my article. Sayonara non-competes. I think for the most part it really is for the best, and I know there's some really different opinions and some interesting wrinkles that have arisen since the original ruling here late April. And it's my mad canvas skills right there, but let me just go ahead and borrow right from the Washington Post. This article, you may have seen this just last month. Very clear, FTC has banned non-competes, and a lot of ramifications there. So I'm a bit surprised at those statistics, but non-competes affect about 1 in 5 working adults in the United States. And so that's everybody, from young adults up to CEOs, different industries, different backgrounds. And something you may want to consider that I nudge my clients to do is double check, triple check to see if you in fact are under a non-compete. I've had that happen with even my own clients where they didn't remember that a non-compete was actually in force because they've been such a rock star at their company. Sometimes folks will forget about those things. And so you could say now doesn't really matter, but there are some interesting areas where a non-compete could still be relevant if you're in the C-suite. But this is an infographic that the FTC released that I think is really nice. There's actually a link to it in the description there. And some of these numbers I think are pretty shocking. An average of 17 to 29,000 more patents could happen because of this ban. And so one of the strong arguments for getting rid of non-competes is more innovation. And that's been a really interesting debate, especially if you live here in Washington State like I do, versus in comparing, let's say, Seattle, Washington to San Francisco, California, and other cities or other states, other localities where a non-compete was maybe less likely to be enforced. And is that a reason maybe that Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley because of the innovation factor and the the laws that affect that state. So really interesting concept. More startups. I mean, the FTC, I think, really leaned heavily into this concept of if we get rid of non-competes. And of course, generally a non-compete is a document that an employee might sign that would essentially disallow them to work in the same job or the same industry, usually within a given area. So that's a very surface level definition. But this concept, I mean, quite literally, that's a federal agency making a decision that bans these nationwide. So this, you could say, takes away the power of the states to argue about this or bicker about it. But believe that the FTC really believes this is going to be an engine or a catalyst for growth. So pretty neat stats there. You don't need me to read all of those. But I think some of the other concepts here are really interesting to kind of dive into. So you could say some of this ruling comes down to workers' rights, or even a sense of kind of free speech, or the desire to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so the commission determined that non-competes are unfair methods of competition and essentially make it harder overall for businesses to compete. So non-competes, this is a really interesting point too. Non-competes fundamentally, according to FTC, restrict workers' fundamental freedoms to leave for a better job or to start their own business. And bullet point 2 under the second section here, the third one up from the bottom, really interesting point. So kind of hearkening back to what I was saying a minute ago, a lot of times non-competes really are take it or leave it. And if you want the job, then you got to take that non-compete with it. And so many times it's one of the pieces of paper that gets signed in the new hire paperwork packet. Do people always remember that? Well, not always. So again, double check, triple check. You might want to know, for example, maybe you fit into that category of folks where maybe this new ruling does not necessarily bar the non-compete that you've signed. And of course, non-compete is different than non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. So, but really good points. Again, I won't read through all of those, but the FTC also put out a fact sheet, which I think is great. And in my article, I kind of have a little an aside joke there. I mean, I'm sure there are folks who've printed this out and posted this up in workplaces, or even maybe glued it or duct taped it to their HR representative's door, perhaps, or slid it underneath the door, that kind of thing. So some really handy fact sheets are out there that really kind of distill the ruling. The ruling is quite large. I downloaded it. I have not read it all myself, but I think I get the high points. But up at the top you'll see, and this has been my experience, as non-competes are pretty widespread throughout the economy. Different fields, different industries use them, and they'll pop up once in a while. But nearly 30 million people, pretty large number, are subject to non-competes. I've been under one myself, so I know a little bit about what it's like to be kind of beholden to one. But again, some really interesting points here about what this could do as a catalytic movement. So I think well worth diving into, whether you're an employee or perhaps you're an employer, maybe you're in human resources, maybe you're an employment law expert. Interesting stuff, to say the least. And so, like I say, from my perspective, yes, I've helped folks navigate these, and oftentimes quite difficult to take a job and sidestep that non-compete. And so classically, I would try to help folks nudge the needle towards a higher base salary or some other benefits like outplacement to outweigh that kind of the draconian measures, you could say, of the non-compete. So again, when you get an offer letter, you may not want to just take it right away. There are career development professionals like me who might be able to take a look at that, or of course your friendly neighborhood attorney might want to have someone look at that, even if it's friends and family, to give you some different perspectives on what you're signing, what you may be giving up. And so there's my point there. if a non-compete affects someone's ability to put food on the table simply because they chose a certain job, if that employee doesn't intend to take a customer list with them or start a competing firm right across the street, then maybe it's high time we got rid of non-competes. So some really good points there. The article that I cite too, there's a Fortune article that came out. It was a really good point about nonprofits and hospitals and the healthcare sectors, areas where maybe there's some fallout in terms of non-competes, where we think 30 million, is that all in the private sector? Well, no, as far as I know, that number is not just that's everywhere. That's the nonprofit sector as well. And so many health professionals, because the Act gives agency authority over companies organized to operate, that maybe doctors, maybe nurses and healthcare professionals may be left out in the cold. And so again, it may not be a perfect ruling. So again, you might want to juxtapose what you've signed and what what you've got in your background in terms of new hire paperwork, compare it to this new ruling and see where you're at. So really good point. I think that article is really well worth reading. Just even within this first 30, 40 days of the ruling, some interesting kind of wrinkles have started to get sussed out here a little bit. And in my perspective, of course I'm a bit biased. Yes, I've been beholden to these agreements, but also I'm a business owner, and so I do hear the perspective that, well, why not have a non-compete? Why would we make it easy for an employee to simply take customers or take good business practices and go do something else? And so one thing I'd like to throw out, and I haven't seen this a whole lot in the media, is this kind of counterbalance concept of not only non-competes being good for growth, but for the folks who may be worried about the competition, maybe the best product should win. And so I kind of point out a story where I've seen even folks who've hired me at some point down the road kind of striking out on their own. And in almost every case, it seems like they abandon the practice. And so I, as a business owner, I'm simply a solopreneur. I'm a one-person shop. Part of my thinking is, if you've got the best products, the best ideas, the best services, well, then maybe we shouldn't be so worried. Maybe we don't need a non-compete necessarily in the background if us business owners are really striving to do our best work. So, but I do hear with that perspective. So a lot of really interesting debates that are popping up now too. So I think it'll be interesting to see if more in the news kind of gets revealed about some of the ripple effects across corporate America. So, as I said, sayonara non-competes, it's probably for the best. And so, thank you. I appreciate everyone taking a listen to the series, whether you're listening to the audio in kind of podcast style or you're taking a look at some of my notes here in the PowerPoint deck. Appreciate you joining me. If you have some other articles that you think I should consider, or maybe I should add to my LinkedIn article about non-competes or negotiation, I'm all ears. Or if you have ideas for the channel or the series, please send those my way. I do want these episodes to be client-driven and kind of utility-driven. These are some of the sources that I cite in the series. Some regular ones. Again, some specific links will be posted up here in the YouTube notes. If you'd like to reach out, please do. Or if you want to check my credentials and keep me honest, please feel free. You can check me out at architectinfinity.com, olympicresume.com, or my LinkedIn profile, what have you. And there's my main number. So, again, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Bit of a brief episode. I'm trying to keep these to 30 minutes or less, so hopefully good information delivered pretty quickly. So again, have a great one. Thank you for sitting with me and listening to episode 6. All right, take care, be well, and enjoy the evening and the weekend. All right. Bye, everyone. And don't forget to check out Ghost Rifter, Luke Hall, Sakura, and Chill Peach. Great music, nice and relaxed. All right. Take care, everyone.